peeps, welcome to another vlog. We have a really big day of finishing ahead of us today, and I'm sort of sitting in between a love and hate relationship with finishing because I find finishing to be extremely satisfying, but at the very same time, I find it to be the hardest phase of a project coming to fruition, and that's gonna be the general topic of today. So peeps, let's get to work, let's have some fun. Oh, and by the way, peeps, you know what to do, baby. Let's go do some delicious plumbing. So peeps, I wanted to pop into the studio to talk about what exactly is going on in this video while I'm doing the finishing. As you're watching right here, I'm actually installing the connection that goes into a faucet for what's usually a floor drain primer, but we're actually opting to use it for an entirely different fixture in and of itself. So when we first got into the unit, what we're supposed to be doing is installing a powder room essentially, which is a vanity, water closet, and they also wanted to connect a hot water tank. Because not a lot of people are going to be using it, they don't really need a high demand for hot water, so this tiny little unit should be the perfect size for this application right here. So there are a couple of things that I need to show you for you to understand what's happening, okay? So we have a water closet right here. This pipe right here, this P-trap is going to be the vanity, and this P-trap right here is an additional P-trap that we added for a safety measure for the hot water tank. Now, a couple of things that you have to know about powder rooms in this sort of situation is that normally the powder room comes with a floor drain. In this situation, this powder room doesn't have a floor drain, which adds a little bit of complication to this. Because of a hot water tank being in the vicinity, anytime you have a hot water tank, you want to make sure that you have some sort of drain in case that hot water tank discharges. In this case, again, like I was saying, there was no floor drain in place, so Dad and I had to come up with something creatively to make sure that if the pressure relief valve on the hot water tank discharges, it has a drain for it to discharge into. Now, for those of you that don't know, a hot water tank is designed with a safety measure in place called a pressure relief valve. So they install a pressure relief valve to discharge before that ever takes place, but that means that you might have a continuous flow of water coming from your hot water tank, and it's gonna discharge onto the floor right then and there. So what we did is we opted to rough this in, and we added an additional trap which fit into the right fixture units and also fit into the right requirements that will allow this hot water tank to discharge into it if, God forbid, the relief valve does go off. So we have a water closet right here, which is 3-inch in size. The wet vent is this portion right here, which goes all the way up to the green portion right here, and we're actually wet venting 3 fixtures. We're wet venting the vanity, we're wet venting the drain for the hot water tank, and we're also wet venting the water closet. And when you add all fixture units together, you come up with a 2-inch wet vent. The vanity itself is 1.5 inches. It could actually be 1.25 inches, but it was easier to run 1.5 inches. And then the hot water tank drain is a 2-inch trap, basically. So we have 1.5 inches, 2-inch, and then 2-inch wet vent essentially. As you're gonna see later in this video, the hot water tank is a tiny little unit that's wall hung that will be discharging into this 2-inch trap right here. And what you just saw was me connecting the primer that goes into a faucet. And the reason why we're doing that is because what you have to know is that P-traps lose their seal all the time. And the thing is that seal is supposed to keep away sewage gas from coming into the building. We are hoping and praying that this hot water tank never discharges, and if that's the case, this trap right here is never going to be getting water, and people are going to forget to fill it up with water. So what we did was we ran a primer connection into the trap itself, which means that when somebody comes over to this vanity right here and washes their hand, they're going to turn on that water, and as they're washing their hand, a little trickle of water is going to run into this primer, which is what you see me connecting right here, and it's going to actually run all the way into this P-trap, which guarantees that that trap seal is going to be replenished every single time somebody washes their hand. Let's get on to the rest of the video. So peeps, I wanted to talk to you briefly about why I earlier said that I find finishing to sometimes be one of the hardest phases in a plumbing project. Now the thing is, especially when you look at this video right here, you're gonna see me go through a magnitude of different materials that you need. So we are working with PEX first of all, so I have to bring all the tools for PEX. I then have to install the water closet, which is not going to be inside this video right here. But after that, I did have to get everything for water closets, which include gaskets, which include junior hacksaws, which includes bolts, silicone, etc. And as you see later on, I'm going to be installing an entire vanity, which means that I got to get the drills, I got to get the plugs, I got to get the appropriate screws, I got to get the level, I got to get the shims. I then have to do the drain to it, and then afterwards you're going to see me installing a hot water tank, this little baby unit. And for the hot water tank itself, I am mounting it to cement walls, so I'm going to have to get the hammer drill, I'm going to have to get the plugs, and then I'm going to have to connect it with PEX. Not to mention, I also had to connect the primer, and the primer works with copper tubing. So the main message I'm trying to get across here is that the more materials that you're using inside of a rough-in or inside of a project, the more tools you're gonna have to bring to the job site. And when you find that that's what's happening, you're actually spending a lot of time transporting things from the truck into the job site. And whenever you deal with jobs like this, you really have to be well-rounded, because you got to go from PEX to ABS to hammer drilling, cement, and all those different elements. And I find that the more you're running to the truck to get the different types of tools and different variety of tools, the more energy you're wasting just transporting the tools back and forth. So sometimes this phase can be a little bit nail-biting, only because you came to realize, oh, you know what, I forgot a tool in the truck. If I was strictly working with ABS, I would bring all my ABS tools and sit them down and get everything done. But no, I'm dealing with so many different materials, I have to make sure all those tools are present. And I also got to do things that I don't do on an everyday basis. It's not every single day that I have to mount a vanity to a wall, for example. So I got to go into the truck, I got to get the appropriate plugs, I got to get the appropriate drills, etc, etc, etc. So again, I also still find this phase to be extremely satisfying, because you're finally watching the project come to its end, and you see the finished product, and you're proud of the things that you've done well, and you're sort of eyeing the things that you wish you did a little bit better. And overall, the most important thing is that you're continuing to learn, and you're continuing to dance with the trade that you chose to be in, which is always a wonderful moment as well. So peeps, thanks for watching this video. Enjoy the rest of the vlog, and I'll see you plumbers very soon. Kenny Molotov, guys. Peace, baby.